So you're thinking about moving from Texas to Florida? In today's video, I'm going to be going over the pros and cons of moving from Texas to Florida. Kind of give you a rundown of what you can expect. If you stick around to the very end, I'm even going to talk about some barbecue and let you know, what's the barbecue, what's the food like here in general in Florida. So let's get into it right now. If you're new to the channel and you want to know everything there is to know about living in the Treasure Coast of Florida, then subscribe down below, tap the bell for notifications so you can be the first to know about market changes here in the Treasure Coast of Florida. My name is Jacob, I'm with the HEB Company, and we calls every day from people just like you looking to relocate here to our Treasure Coast. So whether you're moving next week, next month, or next year, give me a call, shoot me a text, send me an email. I love to help make your transition here to the Treasure Coast go as smooth as possible. So like I was saying, Texas to Florida, you think it'd be this huge, big change, and yeah, you know, you're moving a very far distance. I think when I moved out here, it was like 24 to 26 hours driving time to move out to where I'm at. It was a long drive. Um, so a little bit of background: I was born and raised in Amarillo, Texas. For those of you who don't know where that is, that's in the Panhandle of Texas, up at the top near New Mexico, Oklahoma. Lived there my whole life. Went to college for a little bit in Idaho. Came back to Texas for a little bit, and then I moved out here to Florida. So I love Florida. I love it out here. I love the change. To me, it wasn't really a huge change, just kind of added to what I liked growing up in Texas. So starting off, let's start with the first comparison, and I'm only going to briefly go over it. I'm not going to go over whether it's good or bad. That's up to you to decide. But the politics here in Florida are very similar to the politics of Texas. Save for the exception that people here generally like Governor DeSantis a lot more than people like Governor Abbott back home. So, you know, whether that's good or bad for you, just letting you know, the politics are very similar. If you're coming from, say, Austin, you might not like a lot of Florida unless you go down like Miami or something like that. Then the weather in Florida. So if you're from like Dallas or Houston, somewhere where you're used to humidity, you're really not going to notice a huge change in the weather here, except for the fact that we never get snow in the part I am in. So I'm in the Treasure Coast. It's in the southeast part of Florida. So I'm about an hour and a half, 2 hours north of Miami, like an hour and a half southeast of Orlando, 2 hours southeast of Orlando. So still South Florida. It has never snowed. As far as I've read in the history books I've read, it has never snowed here in the Treasure Coast of Florida. So those of you from Amarillo or from Dallas or from Austin who occasionally get that quarter-inch of snow and everyone freaks out, you're not going to get that here, which is nice. Except you will trade in the snow for the snowbirds. We have a lot of snowbirds that come down here in the wintertime, but that's a different story. I have some videos about that, telling you a little bit about that. So for those of you in the drier parts, say like near El Paso, Amarillo, Abilene, all right, not Abilene, blank, whatever it is, kind of the drier parts of Texas, you will have a pretty noticeable shift in humidity. It's hot, it's humid, but the closer you get to the beach, so we do get a coastal breeze here that kind of cools it down a little bit, which is nice. And then the summertime is our rainy season, so we get a lot of rain in the summertime, which helps cool down a little bit as well. But for the most part, you're never going to see 100 degrees here. You know, maybe some parts of Florida you might see that. Here where I'm at, the highest I think I've ever seen it is like 95, 96. And that was really hot, but then we get some rain, it kind of cools it down a little bit, and it's not too bad. All right, another thing you're not really going to notice a big difference of, growing up back home, everyone always waved to each other. Everyone knew their neighbors' names, and it was a really friendly place to live. Very vividly remember that growing up. Florida is kind of the same. I know all my neighbors here by name. When you drive past people and wave, they're going to wave back to you. People on the street working their yards, they're going to wave at you when you drive past. Very friendly place. I don't know what part of Texas you're coming from, but you might not be coming from as friendly of a place. It is very friendly here for the most part. You know, maybe if you get down south into like Miami or deeper into Orlando, it might not kind of get that. But here in the Treasure Coast, very friendly, really good small town feel, despite a few people living here. And it's another thing for those of you who like having a garden and like plants like that. Here on the Treasure Coast, we're in the 9. I think at the very top of the Treasure Coast is 9A, stretching down to 9 or 10A down in the southern part of the Treasure Coast here. So for those of you who like gardening, you're going to know what that means. You're going to know that means you can plant lots of plants and just about anything will grow here. For those of you who don't know what that means, that's fine. It just means gardening is not your thing. But another thing to compare, people from outside Texas consider Texas the South. I consider Texas the South, but there's a difference between the South and the Deep South, like your Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, those type of states. So Florida is just as south as Texas is. You're not going to have the deep south feel like you will in some of those other states, just like you don't have that deep south feel in most parts of Texas. But it is still, when I think of the South, I think of, like if I mentioned, knowing your neighbors by name, being very friendly. I don't know, the general feel, general friendliness, Texas feel, you kind of get that here in the Treasure Coast. So again, that's not something you're going to be missing out on here in the Treasure Coast, which is really nice. All right, and the last point I'm going to make, where Texas and Florida are very similar, and then I'll go into some of the differences between the two. People from Florida have a lot of Florida pride. I'm going to go out on a limb and say their Florida pride is just as big as Texas pride. The only difference is there's not very many native Floridians out here. Like you go to Texas, you see Texas stuff everywhere. Texas, we're known for the pride that we have for our state because we love it, And people from Florida that were born and raised here in Florida, they have that Florida pride. The only difference is there's been so many people from the Northeast that have moved down here, and people from all over, Georgia, New York, Ohio, Texas, everywhere. People are moving here. You have a lot of people from the Caribbean islands out here in Haiti, Cuba. So you have this huge, diverse group of people living here, so that you don't notice the Florida pride as much. It's not as much in your face as Texas pride is in your face, because generally a lot of people from Texas like to stay in Texas because they love it so much. Here in Florida, they're just kind of overrun with people from all over. But when you do meet someone from Florida, you will notice their Florida pride. You'll see the Florida stickers on the back of their trucks. If you go to some parts like Okeechobee and some of these other parts around here, yeah, you'll notice that Florida pride a little bit more. And they have a lot of pride for their state, and rightly so. It's a wonderful place here. It's beautiful. And personally, unless I move back to Texas or maybe Montana, I wouldn't want to leave here because I love it here so much. So there is a lot of Florida pride. But let's go into some differences between the two. So those of y'all, most parts of Texas are familiar with HEB. HEB is a wonderful store. Talking about Texas pride, HEB has Texas pride. You will see Texas everywhere in HEB, and I love it. So coming out here to Florida, the similar store is going to be Publix. People here love their Publix supermarkets, and they are all over the place. Their prices are a little bit higher than Walmart, just like HEB is a little bit higher than Walmart. But when they have deals, their deals are really good. But Publix is known for their friendliness. They're known for their pub subs. Their little deli is really good, and it's just a great store. You can get a lot of good stuff in there. A lot of variety. If you're looking for food for different kind of ethnic markets, they have a lot of that food in there as well. Their produce is really good as well. So your HEB is kind of comparison to Publix. I like HEB a little bit better because my Texas pride kind of kicks in. But Publix is still a really awesome place to shop. All right, another point of difference that you're going to see here, and I might get a lot of hate from y'all for saying this, but the beaches in Florida are actually nice. I gone down to the beaches near Galveston once. From Amarillo, that's like a 10, 11 hour drive. It's a long drive. I was not impressed. And I'm sure there's some nice beaches somewhere in Texas, but even the nice beaches in Texas, they just can't compare to the nice beaches out here. And the average beach here is, I would say, better than the best beach in Texas. So the beaches here are really nice. I love it here. The fishing's really good. And the good thing about it, you don't have to live near the coast to do good saltwater fishing. Everywhere here in Florida is near the coast, just about. So a lot of good fishing. If you like boating, a lot of boat slips. A lot of places have a boat. A lot of rivers here have ocean access. It's just for a water aspect, Florida is a lot better water wise than Texas is. Sorry to say. All right, now I have some really good news for y'all. Some of y'all think you're gonna move out here, you're gonna miss some of your favorite luxury things, like say Buc-ees. We have Buc-ees here in Florida. Unfortunately, we don't have any here in the Treasure Coast where I'm at. But if you go up north to St. Augustine and Daytona Beach, there's a Buc-ees in St. Augustine, Daytona Beach, and then they are building a third one in Ocala, which is just north of Orlando. So Buc-ees is starting to grow out here. I would love to see one down here. And if this Ocala one does really well, I wouldn't be surprised to see them building a little bit more here down south. So there is Buc-ees here. When you go on your road trips, up to Georgia or the Carolinas or wherever you go, you will have Buc-ees here, which is awesome. Another thing that a lot of people, me personally thought I was gonna miss. Um, so we had our first daughter born, our first kid born in Texas, and then we moved here when she was 7 weeks old. But my wife's craving, the whole pregnancy and postpartum was BlueBell ice cream, and I am happy to say we have BlueBell ice cream here in Florida. This is the one here that she was craving all the time, cookies and cream cone. This one pops in and out, but like that's just kind of the seasonal flavors. They kind of bounce all the time. So we're not just stuck with the vanilla and normal flavors. We get all the fun flavors too. We got that cookies and cream cone. We got cookie two-step, and we even have the new Dr. Pepper one they just announced. So BlueBell is out here. You will not go without your BlueBell, which is nice. I have seen it. They have it at Walmart. They have it at Publix, which are your main two grocery shopping places. I've seen it at a couple gas stations, like the little pint-sized ones. They have public or BlueBell ice cream all over the place, so you're not going to go without your BlueBell ice cream. The last thing I want to cover is going to be food. So everyone knows that Texas has great Mexican food. And not just great Mexican food, but great Tex-Mex, which is really its own kind of group in and of itself. I love Tex-Mex. I love Mexican food. Coming out here in Florida, you're gonna miss your Mexican food. There's just not a lot of people that make good Mexican food. I don't know if it's just because there's not a lot of people from Mexico up here. I don't know what it is, but there's gonna be some Mexican restaurants, and maybe I'll get some hate from some locals here saying, "Oh, we have this restaurant, this restaurant." That's great. They're good. They're passable, but go to Texas, have some good Mexican food, and then you can come back and say, actually, yeah, these places they're passable. They're just not great. So I do miss Mexican food. But on the upside of that, we are in a very culturally diverse area. So, like I said, we have people from New York and the Northeast U.S. and Ohio and Texas, and everyone's kind of moving out here. We have a lot of people from the Caribbean, a lot of people from Cuba, Haiti. We get a lot of cool food and restaurants out here. You have your Haitian food, your Cuban food, your Caribbean food, your Jamaican food. You see all these little restaurants and food trucks all over the place, and they're kind of fun to stop in and try. They don't quite take the place of Mexican food for me, but it is what it is. And as promised, I said I was going to talk about barbecue as well. So barbecue, it's different out here. Let me say, for those of y'all who are familiar with the Carolina type barbecue, my understanding is that barbecue we have out here in Florida is more of a Carolina type barbecue. What does that mean? Most of you are wondering. That means there is a very light to strong, depending on who makes it, mustard flavor with the barbecue sauces here. For me, I don't like mustard. My wife loves mustard. It's growing on me. If it's somewhere with a light mustard flavor, I can tolerate it, and I'm starting to like it. But some of the places with strong mustard, I can't stand. I've tried a lot of barbecue places out here. The two that I would recommend in my area, so down in Stewart, there's a place called Sweet Smoke. They have the best barbecue sauce I've ever had. I've been to some great places back home, even going out to like Lockhart, Texas, and going to like Black's Barbecue and some good places like that. Sweet Smoke, I don't know what they make their barbecue sauce with. There's no mustard in that one, by the way. It's an amazing barbecue sauce. Their meats themselves are they're good. They don't compare to like Black's or some of these good barbecue places in Texas. Um, they're good, but their barbecue sauce is amazing. And then there's a place up in Fort Pierce called Moonswiner's Barbecue. They do have the mustard flavor in their barbecue, which is slowly growing on me. But their meats are really good, and their food, all in all, Moonswiner's is really good. If I had to go eat at a place for barbecue, I'd probably go to Moonswiner's versus Sweet Smoke. It's more of a fast food barbecue type environment versus like a sit down restaurant like Sweet Smoke is. Sweet Smoke does have a drive through though, so I guess it is fast. Word of caution though, Moonswiner's is always packed. It's always busy. Huge parking lot, and it fills up. But it's good, it's worth it. Hopefully they'll open a second location soon, maybe down here in Port St. Lucie, and that'd be really good for them because I love Moonswiner's. But that's it. Those of y'all who moved from Texas to Florida recently, let me know down in the comments. What was the biggest cultural shock for you? If you think I'm missing anything out, please let me know. But that is what I have noticed the most moving from Texas to Florida. And I love it out here. I love Texas. I love Florida. It is what it is. I love it out here. I love the fishing. I love the people. I love the humidity. For those of y'all who know anything about Amarillo, Texas, it's dry, it's flat, and it's ugly. There's no trees. That is what it is. I love the people out there. The people out there are amazing. Don't get me wrong. I loved growing up there. But Florida, yes, it's flat, but we have humidity, we have the ocean, we can grow just about any plant out here. I love it out here. The people are great too. So that's what it is. Thanks for watching.